hate, no hype, no fear. We are TFR Frequency Radio.
Welcome. We are broadcasting live from the mothership. You are tuned in and listening to Starseed Energy Radio with your host Jonah Bolt. Starseed Energy Radio, where you can always tune in to hear the colors and see the music. Starseed Energy Radio goes live in 3, 2, 1.
All right, what's up, Spaceship Earth? Thanks for tuning in. You are now receiving a live transmission from Starseed Radio, where you can always tune in to hear the colors and see the music. I'm your host, Jonah Bolt, the Octorian Starseed, and today is a beautiful Thursday in sunny South Florida, December, a beautiful month here, the 17th of 2015. What a great year so far. Can't believe the year has flown by. We are broadcasting live here in Florida, and also for the holidays, we'll be traveling a little bit throughout the state, up into Tampa and also Sebring to see the grandparents for the holiday and Christmas. So going to be a fun adventure. Hope everyone also has some good plans for the holidays. We have a great show lined up for you today. We're going to be joined by Dr. Richard Allen Miller on the second half of the show, talking about our Synergy webinar going off this Sunday, Synergy Oneness. .com. Check that out for more information, the panelists, and also you can reserve your seat and get tickets. Also, during the webinar, we'll be interviewing 4 different professionals from around the world on water. We're doing the element of water, the 4th element in the series of 5, and then the 5th element will be January 6th, which is ether. We'll have another 4 panelists talking about ether. This one, we're going to be joined by Nat Rich, by Dr. Richard Allen Miller, by Jason Verbelli from Searle Magnetics, and our last person we'll be joined by is Glenn Ryan. All of them have amazing research and work in the structure of water, the memory of water, the consciousness of water. So it's going to be an amazing, amazing webinar series. Check out synergyoneness.com for more information on that. And of course, check out starseedradio.com. I know the site has been down a little bit this week. Sorry about that. Our hosting site that we host with was hacked. So we're in the process of updating some things in the back end, and the site should be up today or tomorrow the latest, so we apologize for that. Also, if you haven't checked out starseedradio.com for the latest news and updates, we have some awesome Twitter feeds up there. We also have some space weather trackers and things like that, so always check us out. Ryan Durnick from Bellwether Post also has his feed up there. We're always posting up new articles to keep you up to date from different news stories from around the world. And it looks like our site is back up. I just logged on. It looks like the site is back up, so that's good news. So the listeners out there could see some awesome stories and stuff we're reporting on. Another site to check out is starseedtechnologies.com. Starseed Technologies, we have an amazing array of different sustainable and energetic different systems on there. Please check us out. We have burning tires turning it into natural gas. Amazing new technologies on there. We want to get these technologies out to the world. So check out starseedtechnologies.com. We'll send you a full catalog. Just fill out the little box to the left. You'll see on the left-hand side is a little submission form. Fill that out, get it over to us, and we will get you the catalog as well as send you some free energy information if you want, and also a free piece of Elite Shungite if you have not gotten your free piece of Elite Shungite. Also, check us out on iTunes, on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. We're on all the social media outlets. So if you get a chance, like us, check us out. It always helps to get your support. Thank you for all the listeners out there for supporting the show. And the last website to give out is starseedgold.com. This is an amazing new gold exchange system. I am now saving in gold. Many of my family members are, as well as many friends of mine. We have signed up about 35 people already, and it's just growing. You have to really think of what's really going on in the world when turning to gold-backed systems. We've been talking about this with BRICS Bank. We've been talking about this with China buying up all the gold. There's actually a huge demand right now for gold. Gold is actually running dry in many areas because China, Russia, many countries have been stacking it. Even though they keep manipulating the stock market, shocker there, the actual price and value of gold is way up from what they're really putting out. But that's a whole other story. We can get into that another day. But check out starseedgold.com. Start saving gold today. If you do not want to become an affiliate and resell gold, you don't have to. You can just save gold. We have two options for you. You can open up a free gold savings account. My information, my phone number is on there. You can call me anytime, touch base with me. I'll be more than happy to spend some time to go over all the exciting things you could do with this system. Right now, I can take my gold cards they're like credit cards. They have 1 gram of gold in the middle, and I can go and buy vitamins, go get a haircut. There's actually stores here in Boca Raton, Florida, that are already accepting this new gold exchange system. So that's the exciting thing about it. It's not just buying gold, but it's an exchange system where you can cash it in and use your gold if you want to. So really, really cool stuff that they're doing. Check out starseedgold.com. Contact me with any questions. Watch the video on there, get some information. All right, with that, we're going to go into some news and updates. Lots of things happening in the world. And then on the second half, Richard Allen Miller is going to join us on the show. So with the news and updates, always lots of things, crazy things going on. One of the big main stories we've been focusing on and talking about is, of course, what's going on in Syria and Russia. We also have a lot of talk about the false flag in San Bernardino that happened, which catapulted Obama and everyone else into gun control stuff. You know, people have to really look at the underlying issues that these events happen and what takes place right after. And you could clearly see on that event itself was a very fishy story, to say the least, but yet everyone is running with their terrorists. These two did it, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, witnesses reported 3 males, white, athletic built males that were doing the shooting. But the media runs with the story that they're given. Don't forget that. Okay, jumping into some news and updates, but first we're going to go ahead with our daily quote, which goes, "Call me crazy, but I love to see people happy and succeeding. Life is a journey, not a competition." True that. Great quote. I'll post it up on Starseed Radio, also on our Twitter feed and Facebook. Check out that quote. Call me crazy, but I love to see people happy and succeeding. Life is a journey, not a competition. So true. And just to reflect a little bit on that quote, you know, a lot of people, especially in corporate America, a lot of offices I worked at, how I was taught was you got to do whatever it takes. Capitalism, step on the next man's head next to you to get above. Do what you got to do, cut corners, whatever it is to succeed. And that's how many Americans, many people in corporate America around the world are taught. And that is not how it is and not how it should be. We're not in competition with each other. If anything, if we did support and help each other, embrace each other to succeed, all of us would be so much more successful. Can you imagine if all the people in the business world actually helped empower each other and supported each other rather than cutting each other's throats and stepping on each other's heads? We would have probably a much stronger, much more successful economy. But hey, those are just my thoughts. What do I know? All right, going into some news and updates. This first article is coming from a great site, naturalnews.com, and if people have not checked out that site, it's really a great site. I always check that out, usually at least once a day, because the health ranger who runs the site is always posting up some great articles, not just about news articles about what's going on in the world, but also lots of health tips and things like that to stay healthy. Staying healthy in this toxic environment is key to what is happening and what's going on. You want to stay as healthy as you can. Don't forget, as I'm sure many of you know, we're being poisoned on many different levels all over the place. Okay, so there is a new multi-toxin GMO that produces their own poison that carries serious health and environmental risks. We've been talking about a big advocate for banning GMOs. Many countries around the world have done that. We have yet to do it, but if we keep talking about it and spreading awareness about it, we can hopefully one day ban GMOs in this country. Although Monsanto has a large lobby firm and large lobbyists here in Washington, and the ex-vice president is head of our Food and Drug Administration, with enough talking, enough petitioning, enough protesting, enough awareness, we can stop people like Monsanto. Many other countries have banned Monsanto and GMOs from their country, so can we. This article goes on to say new strains of GM crops that produce pesticides in their own tissues are being approved without rigorous safety testing, even though they may carry serious health and environmental risks. Yeah. You think? Now they have multi-toxin GMOs that produce their own poison. And they're not doing rigorous testing. They're just like, oh yeah, these are great. These seeds help, and these chemicals help, and they're going to produce their own poisons to kill bugs. Oh, and they might kill humans. But, let's get it out to the market. No one's going to know. Good article. Get it up there. Get it out. Get it to the people. Next article we're going to go over is the massive Fukushima radiation. I've been talking about this since 2011. It seems to be forgotten in mainstream media. When you talk about Fukushima, some people don't even know what it is. But the alarming findings that levels of Fukushima radiation off the North American coast are higher now than they've ever been. We talked about and mentioned this as well earlier on the week. There's another article talking about it. This is a very, very big issue. We're talking about die-offs from sea lions we talked about on Monday, dying off of animals. The Pacific Ocean literally is dying from the plank level up. When you have deadly levels of radiation floating around, like we do in the Pacific, you're going to find dead animals. They are not, they're not Fukushima radiation level 5 proof. They're dying in masses and droves. We've had whales beach themselves, dolphins. It's horrible what's going on. And now what I believe has to happen is a massive worldwide effort collectively, not just leaving it for Japan to clean up the mess, because obviously Japan is not doing a good job. Here we are 5 years later, and it's still leaking, still radiating, and it's already killing people. It's already killed some of our U.S. sailors. I believe it was the U.S. Ronald Reagan that was out in the Pacific, where 22 sailors got cancer and died. They were really close to Fukushima. So don't think that this isn't hitting home just because people in Los Angeles aren't dropping like flies yet. This radiation continues, and the contamination can get worse, where there are still a few reactors that could get worse that they're talking about. This is not going to be a good scenario when this hits worldwide, and it can and it will if we don't stop it. So I believe a worldwide effort needs to be taken place. We should have a coalition, not against Saddam Hussein and Gaddafi in Libya, but we need a coalition to battle the Fukushima radiation. It's out of control, and the mainstream media has completely forgotten about it. So, big story. Get it out there. Share it with your friends and family. Get people talking about it. Raise some awareness. Another exclusive article, Oregon ranch family to file last-ditch government redress measure to resolve jail resentencing as militia units asked to prepare. Now, this has been a big story we've been talking about for a while, too, is that the Florida militia, which is a militia I used to train with here, every state has a militia. Every state should have a well-regulated militia. Militias are part of our Constitution. They're part of our Constitution because the Founding Fathers knew that if every American had a firearm to protect his land, protect his family, that would give them some chance to strike back at a government if they were ever to implement rules, laws, and regulations that were against the people, which has been going on for a very long time, except I haven't seen any militias mobilize and do anything, which is quite sad, to be honest. Not that I want to see another civil war, but this is why militias are in place. This is why we have a well-regulated militia. When I was training with the militia in 07 and 08, we did very simple things like learn how to do canned food, how to live out in the well, here in Florida we have swamps, how to live out in the swamps, how to track things, how to navigate with a compass, many skills that everybody should have, that I feel any great disaster, everyone should learn how to can food, keep food dry, things like that. So I had a great time. I learned a lot. It was all with great people, a lot of ex-military, and really gave me a sense of community and also security as well. You know that you can count on these people in your community, that if things ever happen, you have a well-regulated militia to stand up for you in your community and fight back against tyranny. Now, what's happened is because the sheeple, so many people have been fluoridated and dumbed down that people nowadays aren't really paying attention. We have football and basketball and all these sports, and no one really watches the news. No one really checks things out. Everyone trusts the government. Everyone trusts the government and just doesn't really do much. We had the Occupy movement. We've had a few protests, a few things here and there, which were really good. But what may happen or need to happen or should have happened is more of an Occupy type movement with firearms. Can you imagine if the Occupy movement had all those people were militias and they camped outside with their firearms legally outside city halls? They would probably have a much different response than throwing tear gas and setting in police to kick over all the tents and tear gas everyone and arrest people, because that's what happened in the Occupy movement. They were literally broken up from land that was public to be used or can be used to protest and things like that. But hey, the government came right in, the police, knocked them all down, did what they had to do, didn't really care, arrested people, and broke up the Occupy movement. Now, if those Occupy people were militia people with firearms, and it was a well-regulated militia, I can guarantee you the chief of police of each county that went in to break up the camps of protesters wouldn't probably have acted so quickly. And we might have gotten somewhere if the American government saw that in 100 cities across the country there was over 100,000 armed militiamen. Much different scenario, don't you think? Not that I'm advocating violence or want violence, but hey, this is why we have militias, to stand up to tyranny, which we've been under for a long time. So this article goes on to say that there have been some reports of different militias being called and told to prepare to get ready. Militia and patriot organizations are preparing to deliver a redress of government document to state the county officials in Oregon, asking that they intervene to prevent a father and son from having to return to federal prison on terrorist arson charges, sources have confided to Natural News. Meanwhile, as noted in a blog post at the site, Freedom Outpost, a Level 2 alert has gone out from supporters of Dwight Hammond, 73, and his son Stephen Hammond, 46, to unnamed militia groups, instructing them to be ready to deploy in an effort to defend them against tyrannical feds who label them terrorists. That is what I'm talking about. So understand what's happening here. We, the American people, are now being targeted and labeled as terrorists. This is how they're going to take down the militias and take down the real patriotic supporters, the people who love this country, people who want this country to be the greatest country. This is how the government is going to get around it. They're going to call me a terrorist. They're going to call you a terrorist for talking truth. They're going to call Mr. Dwight Hammond, who's 73, a terrorist, and his son a terrorist. And they're going to go, SWAT team, probably go and arrest him and call him a terrorist for speaking up against his government. Now, the redress stems from a 2012 conviction of both men who were charged under a federal anti-terrorism statute with committing arson on federal land overseen by the Bureau of Land Management. Both were charged in connection with a 2001 fire known as the Hardy-Hammond Fire in the Steene Mountain Cooperative Management Protection Area, which burned some 138 acres of public land, according to various reports. Now, other reports said that both fires were started on the Hammond property as well as in lands which the Hammonds had leased for grazing rights. But none of that saw federal prosecution in court. Imagine that. Two farmers buy some land, they burn the land, which is what they do. Farmers burn the land to graze the land. We see that all the time here, especially in Costa Rica, all over. Farmers know what I'm talking about. But no, they don't mention that in the report. These are terrorists. They're lighting our federal land on fire, and they need to go to jail. Another crazy court case that just shows you how the U.S. government is going to be labeling people and has been labeling people for a very long time. We talked about an article that came out also last week that they're going to now take away people's passports that don't pay taxes. I mean, literally trap people here in the U.S., literally. So it's gotten out of control. You can't take people's freedom of right to travel outside this country away because they don't pay taxes. That is a crazy, crazy, crazy law and story we talked about that's, to me, out of control. They're going to now refrain people from traveling outside the country or anywhere. It's going to be like Cuba soon. People are going to be taking boats to get out of the U.S. I mean, think about it. They're going to keep restricting people to a time where everyone who is here is basically going to be trapped in the U.S. Martial law may be called, who knows? But, these are the times to really educate yourself about protecting you and your family, canning food, things like this. Have a plan. Don't just sit there and watch football all day and expect everything is great and jolly in the world. It is not. I'll post that article up also on Starseed starseedradio.com, and also on the Twitter feed. ISIS aligns with Richard Dawkins and the radical left, orders mass murder of infants with Down syndrome birth defects, reports the claim. Now, obviously, we've been talking a lot about ISIS, how ISIS was formed, how they were funded. We know that the U.S. funded them, helped train them, helped organize them. Now, an increasingly radicalized American and Western leftists are becoming ideologically aligned with the terrorist group known as the Islamic State. And this latest example is just disgusting, if it's true. Reports from a Middle East-based human rights organization say that a Sharia law judge with the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria has ordered the murder of children with Down syndrome and other disabilities. Now, this is giving you a peek into how horrible it is, this group that is just going around killing Christians. I don't think killing any Jews, I don't think there's any Jewish people left in Iraq and Syria, but killing Yazidis, killing anyone that is not Muslim. Now, this is a big thing because a lot of people don't want to talk about this story, they don't want to bring it up because they don't want to be politically incorrect, but there are many good statements and people out there shedding some light, saying that, yes, not all Muslim people are bad, but there is a good percentage and a growing percentage of Muslims that do want the eradication of the West, and they want Sharia law. Those are the Muslims that we're talking about, the radicalized Muslims that a judge supposedly has just ordered the murder of children with Down syndrome and other disabilities. Now, we've seen this happen throughout history. This is not a pretty sight. This is not going to be a good thing happening, sparking in the Middle East. I'm sure it may spread to other areas, but this is what they want. They want a kingdom of fear, of hate. They want women not to come out except with their eyes showing. I mean, it's just out of control, some of the rules and regulations they've set up for their quote-unquote holy Islamic State, whatever they want to call it. Now, ISIS have issued a fatwa which orders children with Down syndrome and other disabilities to be killed in a chilling echo to the working of the Nazis, it is claimed, and Sharia judges have apparently ruled that ISIS followers are authorized to kill newborn babies with Down syndrome or congenital deformations and disabled children in their latest sickening act. Men and women and now disabled children, the Nazi-like transformation is happening. So this social media post noted further, throughout monitoring and following the death incidences of children with Down syndrome, we were able to learn that the Sharia board of ISIL issued an oral fatwa to its members authorizing them to kill newborn babies with Down syndrome. Not like I even want to talk about this on the radio or even go into this, but this is some serious stuff people need to really know about because it's real and it's happening. And you can't just ignore the issue. Be aware of it. Don't feed it. Don't feed into it, but be aware of it so you can educate others on what's happening so we all can co-create a better place. That's what we want. Not stuff like this happening around the world. So now, Mr. Richard Dawkins, a top British scientist who has laminated the Bourbon, Down syndrome children, others with handicaps placed in society, and such Volness has a mainstay of Western radical left ever since, as reported by Natural News, and one of the fans of this child influenza for handicapped children is Mr. Richard Dawkins. So check this article out. I'll post this also up on starseedradio.com. And with that, I'm going to go over a couple more articles here. Then I'm going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we will be joined by Dr. Richard Allen Miller talking about some structuring of water as well as some other cool topics that we love to talk to Rick about because he is so filled with so much information. Dr. Rich Allen Miller. Check out richardallenmiller.com. Okay, one more article from the naturalnews.com site talking about Big Pharma. Drugging toddlers becoming big business for Big Pharma with over 1 million kids under 5 on brain-damaging psych meds. Now, we've been talking about Big Pharma and stories like this for a while now as well, that the Big Pharma company continues to drug our children, even drug our adults. I think it's like 1 in 4 or 1 in 3 people in the U.S. right now is on some sort of prescription drug. Now, we know this is big money, big business, and now we have over 1 million children under the age of 5 that are on psychotropics, different psychiatric drugs. It's just out of control. These kind of pills that cause wild delusions, aggressive impulses, erratic behavior, and in some cases cause violent and suicidal thoughts. You're talking about children 5 and under. Toddlers as young as 18 months old are being treated like experimental rats, drugged up with some of the most brain-damaging, life-altering psychotic pills. I was going to say psychotropic. Take the example of a 5-month-old Andrew Rios, a newborn who began having seizures, which is a common side effect of vaccines. Andrew turned 18 months, and a neurologist put the toddler on an epilepsy drug called Phalbamate, which immediately evoked violent behavior in the young child. As the young boy's life was being ripped apart by the medical system, a neurologist intervened again to prescribe Risperdal, an experimental drug used on adults diagnosed with bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. The drug caused the young boy to experience violent and delusional fits of insomnia. He often jolted awake in his sleep screaming while interacting on a delusional manner with objects that weren't present in the room. So this is the society, unfortunately, that the great American dream has created. It is time for people to stand up, to be vocal, get some information out, and let's change this system. Do like Buckminster Fuller said, don't go against the system that is not working, just simply create the new one to make the old one obsolete. That is what we're shooting for. That is what we want, the 100th monkey effect. It is time for people to stand up and not take this anymore. And here we go with a quick commercial break. We'll be right back with Dr. Richard Allen Miller. I'll post these articles up on starseedradio.com. So hang on right there. We'll be right back after these messages.
They call me Marvin like the Martian, 'cause I
The Freedom Link with Joe Joseph, Monday and Wednesday on Truth Frequency Radio.
The greatest form of control is where you think you're free when you're being fundamentally manipulated and dictated to. One form of dictatorship is being in a prison cell and you can see the bars and touch it. The other one is sitting in a prison cell but you can't see the bar, you think you're free. What the human race is suffering from is mass hypnosis. We are being hypnotized by people like this. Newsreaders, politicians, teachers, lecturers. We are in a country and in a world that is being run by unbelievably sick people. The chasm between what we're told is going on and what is really going on is absolutely enormous.
All right, welcome back to the show. You're listening to Starseed Radio. Check out starseedradio.com for the latest news and updates. And now we're going to go into our special guest of the show. We have Dr. Richard Allen Miller joining us. He has come on the show many times talking about an array of amazing different topics. He has a wide library of information coming from a background working with U.S. Navy SEALs for the government, metaphysics, just everything. He's going to be joining us this Sunday for our Synergy Water Element. Return to the Elements. Check out synergyoneness.com for more information. And with that, Dr. Richard Allen Miller. Rick, thank you for coming on the air. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you for having me. I just got off doing 2 hours with Vincent Finelli on Genesis. We had more listeners than Glenn Beck that same hour.
We're
talking about sustainable lifeboats and this weird stuff, polymer that's coming out of the earth and into the soil. And you can, in Missouri, they're picking it up like cotton candy off the ground.
Yeah, we've actually talked about that, Rick. Maybe we could talk a little about that. That goes right into geoengineering with the chemtrails, correct?
That is correct. I did a large talk about that up in Ashland, Oregon, a couple of weeks back, and I had identified 18 different varieties, of which now the Navy has deployed a new one using lithium to lock down a small city that might be in unrest. Everybody up there, we went up there 2 weeks later, and everybody there is sick.
Wow.
Reedport, Oregon, yeah, new weapon deployment.
Wow, I remember hearing Australia talking about they want to put lithium in the water supply and other countries that are already doing it overseas. And now you're saying they're dropping lithium from the sky to basically dumb people down and put them in a coma state. correct?
When there's unrest, like there's no water from the sunspots that are going to hit the Earth this Saturday. Yeah.
Well, tell us about the sunspots, Rick. Let's go into that. What's happening this Saturday?
That's suspicious observer today and yesterday. The sun did a couple of burps, some big ones. They're not even saying how big at this point. I can only guess, and they'll hit us Saturday morning.
Wow. And
That'll be communications. If anything goes, that will most likely be what it'll be. It won't be the grid, probably. Earthquakes, volcanoes, that kind of thing, of course.
Now, this is why we have space weather trackers and things like that up on the site, Starseed Radio. This is very important stuff for people to pay attention to, Rick. Don't you think taking the outlook on wanting to know what's up with the sun, wanting to know where it's at, because those type of things could happen and they're invisible. You're not going to see it coming. You're not going to hear it coming. You're just going to wait.
You're like, NASA came out 2 days ago and said they have discovered two very large objects. One is probably wormwood, the other planet 7X. They're saying out past the Oort cloud and not part of the Andromeda galaxy, Tau Ceti, and I can't remember the nearest star to us, not Aldebaran. However, it's in our solar system. NASA came out, suspicious observer yesterday. I posted on Facebook that stuff. There are now, it could be anything. And the way NASA put it is, we are surprised that we missed it. End quote.
Wow. Now, we've heard different stories over the years about Planet X, Nibiru, things like that, but to have NASA come out and mention it or even say something, maybe a red flag or not, because, NASA's
historically, on website, the Time of Forever video is a must-watch depicting cave dwellings were not done by cavemen. They were done by educated individuals that had to seek shelter, and were basically, when they drew a bison, it was a star map. And this video confirms it. They show the overlays. They show some overlays in some 30,000-year-old ones where it was witnessed from space because it's reversed. It's interesting. Well, I know that I don't know. And I know that there's a high likelihood I may never know. Apparently, there have been civilizations on this earth more advanced than we are. Electricity and nuclear energy are very poor sources of energy, all things considered, with the sun and other kinds of possible weaponry, CMEs, whatever, or ELF spike weapons that could take our grid out. If the grid goes, what are you going to do for water? And then, once that happens, the rioting starts. And that's where FEMA comes in, and now these new concepts in deployment of weapons. However, the geoengineering has got other kinds of things that would make me feel, as a physicist, that we have been invaded by something. It's like our romance with plastic. This stuff coming down is a polymer. It isn't so much a dangerous thing. It's in everything. It's in your body. That's why your saliva's white now. And you're dehydrated at night more because it has aluminum and barium in it in nanometer particles that act as a desiccant. Imagine what that's doing just to your blood. Now, desiccating the water out of your blood with these little polymers. And now you can pick them up as fluff off the ground when they cluster. That's how much is in the atmosphere. It's in everything.
No.
And so you want to talk about Fukushima and just what happened a couple days ago up north of New York City and that big power plant that had a meltdown?
No, I didn't hear about that, Rick. Tell us about that, please.
It's on darkram.com. That's my Facebook, and I posted it yesterday. There it is.
I did not hear about that.
No, actually, I posted it today, starting with Fukushima, and some comments I made in that in terms of the nuclear power plants everywhere now. All of them are leaking, and that if the grid goes down, we're soup. That's what happened up in New York at this. I forget what it starts with a P. up north of New York City. The plant lost power, and the reactor went critical.
Wow.
Could have been another Chernobyl. Jobs.
We
like
talked
that.
about Fukushima earlier in the show and how it's been a lost story from mainstream media and how bad it is still. We just had 65,000 or something sea lions that were found dead. I mean, the plant, everything, the life is dying.
Is that the microalgae in the ocean are now starting to get so thick you can see them from space. This is all a direct result of the global warming and the desalinization of the sea, and the video I made called The Day After Tomorrow. It's happening right now, literally. And now we have Nibiru. We've identified it. We don't know if it's a brown dwarf. It's abnormal in that it does not have an infrared signature. What could that suggest? Well, it could be a Dyson sphere around a brown dwarf in our solar system from a previous civilization. That's most likely. I don't know. I know that I probably will never really know. NASA's been coy. However, there are future weapons of war. That document that came out, The War After Next, talks about all of this in timeline.
Wow. And that's just pushed there.
You want to know about structured water? This is the part that I excel in because Jerry Pollack, who has written the book Fourth Phase of Water, he was my lead in 1970 when I worked out of anesthesiology for the military. Jerry, I didn't work for him, I worked under him. He's the guy that hired me and my lead. If I needed a Bridgeport mill, he'd find one on campus for me or something, that kind of thing.
Wow.
And so Jerry has been my friend 45 years, and he's a biophysicist. I'm more in that I'm a resonant cavity oscillators. Today, for example, I will be writing about resonant cavity oscillators in microtubule systems using water and exclusion zone waters and what they do. Basically, we form nanotubes, and we can do things with that, especially if you want to put, instead of exclusion zone water inside a C60 molecule, you can put a deuterium. Now you have a new weapon called a neutron fullerene fusion bomb. And the ignition facility out of Livermore, I got a picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger holding a National Ignition Facility looking at the target. It's the 1.4 nanometer between two carbon atoms is just the amount to slip a single molecule of exclusion zone H3O2 water inside it that would form a massive bioremediation tool. And there are technical information, and it'll go in and isolate anything. It's wonderful.
Wow. Now, when we're talking about the radiation and all this stuff that's happening around the world, a big story we've been talking about, Rick, is what's happening over in Syria and Turkey with Russia and China. There's a big buildup there happening. Some people say it's already the start of World War III because so many coalition forces are sort of battling Russia and China, and over in Syria is the playground. What do you think is going to happen on there?
Wait. Hey, look, it's not war. Is about 2 or 3 old men sending 1,000 young men off to die, so there's more to go around. It's about money and oil. That's all war is. World War III and that nonsense is a false flag. It is not real. I don't care what Syria does to their women. It's not my judgment call. If I were born in Pakistan, I would have been a Muslim. That belief system part of Christianity and all of that just started with arbitrarily where you were born. And so there it is. Belief systems in themselves are comforting, useful tools. And anything else, assuming that they are the absolute God-given, is a type of sin, actually. It's not certainly going to allow you to evolve.
That's right. Well, we see that story.
Here we are, at the end of days. This is a correct terminology, and you have choices on how you want to participate. And right now, when you look out into your garbage refuge piles and how fast they have grown from the use of plastic and overuse of plastic, and now we're putting it in the atmosphere to line it with a delivery system. What you have now is a new weapon, and whether or not it was, made by humans or not, stay tuned on that. I have no idea. What I do know is it's making the inside of my body look like the outside of my environment. Plastic hanging from a tree. Have you ever seen the plastic bags they give you in Safeway stores ever deteriorate or rot?
No.
It's supposed to be made out of rice hull, not plastic. And plastic in itself, everything is wrapped in plastic. And it's not recyclable. What is that about?
Yeah. I think that the elite, or the 2 or 3 men, like you said, setting men to die, know exactly what they're doing. And I think
it's all about money and war. I have a button a friend of mine showed me, a Ford Motor Company with a Nazi sigil on it. Goodyear and tires and that were used in World War II. Look, the whole thing is about money. And it's by a few people in what we call transnational corporations. They run the earth right now. There's my daughter works as a controller for the state of Oregon. She knows their budget. And she says 40th down in pharmaceutical houses, not even talking about tractors or food. Monsanto is at the top of it. 40th down is Johnson & Johnson Wax, and their annual budget is 4 times that of the state of Oregon. Now imagine how that goes when Jimmy Carter is interviewed in Art magazine stating, Washington's for sale. Agenda 21, where they can suspend your civil rights
That's
in
right.
terms of an emergency, like a climatic change. Right now, we have the strongest El Nino since 1997, which caused the flood of 97 and 98 here in Oregon, the 100-year flood. And so watch what happens now as this new current, the atmospheric ocean current, hitting California and what it does to Hoover Dam. Stay tuned on that. Everything is flooding right now.
Yeah, not just flooding, but also erupting. We've had a lot of seismic activity. It's just been a buildup the last few years.
That's that planet that is affecting the sun, that anytime, we knew there was something out there because it was affecting the orbits of both Neptune and Saturn and Jupiter. We knew that. However, we've never been able to find it, and it was just disclosed 2 days ago, national news. And you'll notice you didn't really get a big deal on that there's another star, binary. In fact, most suns are binary. We have a binary. That binary is now out past the Oort cloud and coming in. Here we are, 2018 probably. I don't know what it's going to do, but the Clovis culture that later became the Hopi Indian talk about it on their cave dwellings.
That's right. That's the blue star and the red star Kachina, the blue Kachina.
Well, there you go. One is the wormwood. They discovered 2 of them out there, and one of them is 30 times the size of Earth and much, much more dense. And they can't see it. Anomaly, there's something wrong because it doesn't have an infrared signature. And because of that, that could be a Dyson sphere. High-end technology wrapped around a small star for power source.
Wow. We've heard a lot of reports on it, but to hear NASA come forward and other ones come forward.
It's Observer yesterday.
Ask him. He's good. Also,
I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I can tell you that I'm very popular in the prepper place because I write in agriculture. I just did 4 more copies of my encyclopedia. That it's a 5-volume set, and only volume 1 is out, and I just did 4 to press. So the other 4 means you have the Encyclopedia of Alternative Agriculture shortly available.
Wow. And I think that's very important for listeners. And we talked about this earlier when I was talking about when I used to train with the Florida militia for 2 years, learning how to can food, learning how to use a compass, simple things that we were taught.
Basic Boy Scout
That's
manual.
right.
Yep.
That's right.
We have them out here as oath keepers. We have militia as well. What Matt Stein and I are doing is educating them. What we do at the big gun shows, we're doing these urban survival skill workshops. I'm trying to teach people how to start internally growing your own food, not getting it at a store. That's like where you start. And so I have a project here at Pacifica Gardens in Williams. It's a 2,000-acre facility for children. And the first thing I did is I took the Caterpillar, which is a traveling science laboratory on entomology, and I stripped it and put in water testing so that a 4-year-old can test the water and know whether it's safe to drink or not. Next grade up, we'll learn what's wrong with the water, and the next one up, we'll learn how to fix it if it's possible. And then from then on, they start teaching adults how to do it. And we do the same thing with soil. It's a paradigm shift in agriculture with educational reform.
Such an important thing to learn and to teach, Rick, because a lot of people rely on Walmart and places like that, where Walmart has basically killed all the mom and pop stores in every community across the country. And now we see Walmart's closing down. Rick, what's up with that? We were always told when you see Walmart's closing down.
China is in a world of hurt even worse than we are financially. The whole thing is about transnational corporations that are bigger than countries. They're controlling us, and they're going to do an extinction protocol to control the masses. And this is all outlined in that NASA document that's called the secret, the new weapons of war, the war after next. The one they did 20 years earlier was called Secret Weapons for Silent Wars. And that was how the economy and capitalism was a electric circuit and how you control inflow and outflow. And basically, if you want the big metaphor, it's probably turning man into laptops so that we're a Borg-like consciousness.
Yeah, I've actually seen a lot into that, Rick, with documentaries, and that's exactly, they're putting tons of money into that. That's
it's the transhuman movement.
That's right.
And the Avatar program. Yeah, that's literally, Kurzweil and what's happening, literally. And as a scientist, I would be remiss if I didn't say something.
And we've also saw this big meeting they had in Paris, Rick, about the whole climate change, and all the countries came together to launch this new carbon and this new, worldwide, we're going to save the world thing. But yet they still, in their pact, are relying on fossil fuels. It's like, a big joke, but the rest of the world doesn't know that. They think that the whole world's coming together to save everybody, and Obama was there in Paris, and climate change is our biggest number one, threat, Obama says. And really, just like Agenda 21, it's not what you think above ground. There's a lot more in-depth meaning, and what's going on behind it is pushing the elite agenda, just like Agenda 21, which people don't really know too much about, but they think it's going to help them because they're using words like sustainability. They're using words that people think automatically are good. Oh, Agenda 21 is doing sustainability.
Agenda 21 allows the United Nations to suspend your civil liberties and send foreign troops in to manage it. That's what Agenda 21 does. And basically, in the European Union right now, 5/4 of it, that's more than 100%, think there's something wrong with Obama, that he has literally a screw loose. And the American public is so duped and narcotic out, literally, dumbed down, what is that called, Common Core? What we're doing is an ecumenical common ground where a bunch of churches come together teaching children of the importance of the playground as a source of food.
That's right. The dumbing down of America, and the sheep are left, and they are just blind. As long as they got football and basketball, Rick, everything is cool.
Yeah, and we got Barbies out there trying to
That's
make our life fit like a Barbie doll. It's not even possible. You're designed to fail right out of the gate on what is important to you and why.
That's right. And that's why shows like this and the work you're doing, Rick, is so important, because it really is a battle of information right now. It's so duped, like you said, the information and the news and everything. It's just so propaganded that you can't even get the real story about what's really happening. And it's very important for shows like this and to do the work you're doing. You also have a new book, correct? What's the name of your book and where can people find that?
I have a lot of new books, and I'll do that in a second. I was going to say, sitting around the table and saying grace, not Christian, just saying grace, being thankful to be there with the people that you're with, that's Quaker, changes everything. That's what you call the memory in foods and in the water. And it restructures everything. Intent. The problem is, intent is not actually purpose. Intent is what actually happens at the end of the day, and kicking and screaming or flowing. And the difference between intent and your real reason for being here, purpose, is lost at this level of awareness. And that's why you must seek your own evolution in consciousness. And that's where you now take management of your ship in terms of impending doom and how you choose to exit this universe. This place here, the physical world, is basically where we go to be sick spiritually. That's a metaphor. As I'm saying this as a scientist, into holographic concepts of reality and the way we have layers of awareness. We have, above the physical plane, we have the emotional plane. That's why EQ is so important. This is how our higher self communicates to us. This is how we talk to ourselves, is on emotional levels of experience. That's only just second level up of 8 levels of consciousness. And all of my books, the one that you're talking about is the non-local mind in a holographic universe, how to change the movie. The one on chapter on water and structure of water is titled, what is it titled? How psyche is structured water, or how the structure of water, or how psyche is brought into matter. The one I'm writing today is the Casimir effect, or Rock the Casimir, or Adventures in Time Travel. The idea of free energy and static energy. The idea of a potential medium that you can draw from membrane physics. I'm trying to understand things, and it's becoming clear that the single most important concept is imagination is reality. So, with that assumed truth, basically, we are creating our own aliens and apocalypse with our imagination. And is why man is responsible for the thoughts he chooses to entertain. They're not supposed to be like a little child wandering around and easily influenced and manipulated by outside forces. Social pressure, and it's football, and it's a new car. You know, everybody gets all excited. Who cares? Actually, new cars are way inferior. And the reason you don't want to shop at Walmart is because everything has come from China, and there it is. No good.
There you go. Rick, thank you so much for coming on. Check out richardalanmiller.com and drram.com for your new book. And we'll be with you this Sunday for the Synergy webinar. Thank you so much, Rick.
You bet. My pleasure.
Space Odyssey, look into the